We descend through clouds that glow like paper lanterns held beneath the surface of a dark sea. The city below is not yet real. It is rumor. It is light scattered across distance, a promise written in neon and haze. Our plane tilts gently, and through the oval window we see Tokyo breathing in the twilight, a living grid stretching toward horizons we cannot name. The wheels touch ground. We have arrived. Inside Narita, the air is cool and clean, scented faintly with something we cannot place. Perhaps it is efficiency, perhaps politeness made atmospheric. The corridors are wide and hushed. Even the announcements feel softer here, as though the airport itself is whispering. We move through immigration in near silence, our footsteps absorbed by carpet that seems designed to forgive sound. Outside, the night air touches our skin like silk that has been left to cool in shadow. We find a taxi waiting, its driver standing beside the door with a small bow, a gesture so practiced it seems almost unconscious. He wears white gloves. He opens the door without speaking, and we slip into seats covered in pristine lace doilies. The door closes with a sound like an exhale. As we pull away from the terminal, the city begins to unfold around us in slow intervals of light and darkness. Vending machines stand glowing on empty corners, their faces illuminated like small shrines to convenience, to thirst, to the possibility of warmth at any hour. We pass them one after another, blue light, orange light, the soft white glow of coffee cans arranged in perfect rows. They seem less like machines and more like sentinels, watching over the quiet roads. The highway curves through neighborhoods where windows flicker with television light, where laundry hangs motionless on balconies, where bicycles sleep chained to railings. The driver says nothing. We say nothing. The silence between us is not awkward. It is shared space. It is respect made tangible. Through the windshield, Tokyo builds itself before us, towers rising like thoughts made solid, highways layered one above another as though the city has learned to fold itself into smaller and smaller dimensions. We arrive at our hotel as the night deepens into that strange hour when the city holds its breath between ending and beginning. We check in with whispers. We ride an elevator that hums a single quiet note. In our room, we open the curtain and look out over streets that glitter and hum, over signs we cannot read but somehow understand, over a geometry of light that suggests 10,000 lives unfolding in parallel, each one contained and luminous. We do not sleep deeply. Jet lag pulls us from bed before dawn, and we are grateful for it. We dress in the blue-dark silence and slip out into the streets as Tokyo begins its first stirrings. The air is different now, cooler, cleaner, as though the night has washed everything and left it damp and new. The sky above is neither dark nor light, but some third color that exists only in this hour, a shade of gray-blue that painters spend lifetimes trying to capture. We walk without direction, letting the streets choose for us, and they lead us through narrow lanes where vending machines still glow but now seem less urgent, less alone. We see a man in a suit, briefcase in hand, stopping at a convenience store. Through the window, we watch him select a rice ball wrapped in plastic, a small can of coffee. He pays, bows slightly to the clerk, and disappears into the morning. We follow his example. We enter the store where fluorescent light makes everything look both hyperreal and somehow distant, as though we are viewing the world through clean glass. The rice ball is still warm in our hands, the seaweed crisp. the rice sticky and faintly sweet. We eat it standing on the corner, watching the sky lighten by degrees. Somewhere nearby, we hear the soft sweep of a broom against pavement. We follow the sound and find an elderly woman in an apron, moving methodically along the sidewalk in front of her shop, gathering leaves and dust into a small pile. She does not look up as we pass. Her movements are unhurried, ritualistic, as though she has performed this same choreography every morning for decades and has found in it something like prayer. The streets begin to fill, but slowly, incrementally. Office workers emerge from apartment buildings, their steps synchronized, their faces calm and inward-looking. They flow toward train stations in small rivers of gray and blue and black, merging at intersections, disappearing down stairwells that lead beneath the city. We watch them and feel we are witnessing something ancient, something fundamental about how humans move through space when they move together. We turn down a side street and discover, almost by accident, a small shrine tucked between buildings. Its torii gate is weathered wood, dark with age and rain. Beyond it, a stone path leads through a pocket of green moss and small manicured trees, and a stone basin filled with water. We step through the gate and feel the air change, as though we have crossed some invisible threshold into a different kind of time. The shrine itself is modest, its wooden structure painted red that has faded into something softer, something closer to rust or sunset. Incense burns in a holder, thin ribbons of smoke rising straight into the still air, carrying prayers or wishes or simply the smell of sandalwood into the morning. We stand before it, unsure of the protocol, but we bow slightly, instinctively, because it seems right. A few other people are here, an elderly man, a woman in business attire, each performing small rituals, clapping twice, bowing, standing in silence. No one speaks. The only sound is the distant hum of the waking city and the occasional clink of coins dropped into the offering box. We leave the shrine feeling quieter inside, as though something has been gently rearranged. The city is brighter now. The sky has turned from gray-blue to pale gold, and light spills down between buildings in long theatrical shafts. Our hunger returns, sharper now, and we begin to look for breakfast. We find it down an alley we might have walked past if not for the small wooden sign and the faint smell of rice and miso drifting outward. The shop is tiny, 6 seats at a counter, a narrow space behind it where a man and woman work in seamless coordination. We slide the door open and are greeted with a chorus of irascimes that feels less like a welcome and more like an invitation into something familial, something warm. We take a seat. The counter is polished wood, worn smooth by years of hands and plates and elbows. There is no menu. The woman smiles and gestures, and we nod, trusting. Within moments, a tray appears before us. A bowl of miso soup, its surface dotted with cubes of tofu and threads of wakame, steam rising in delicate curls. A small grilled fish, its skin crisp and glazed. A bowl of rice so white it seems to glow. Pickles arranged with precision, cucumber, radish, something dark and salty we cannot name. A small dish of natto, sticky and pungent, that we approach with both curiosity and hesitation. Eat slowly. The soup is salty and warm and tastes like waking up. The fish flakes apart beneath our chopsticks, revealing flesh that is tender and faintly sweet. The rice is perfect, each grain distinct, slightly sticky, a foundation upon which every other flavor rests. We watch the chef as he moves, noting the economy of his gestures, the way he plates each dish as though it were a small work of art. His wife wipes the counter, pours tea, exchanges quiet words with a regular seated 2 stools down. This is their world, and for these few minutes it is ours too. When we finish, we bow slightly in thanks. The woman bows in return. We slide yen coins across the counter and step back outside where the city has fully awakened. The streets are busy now, purposeful, alive with motion and intention. We turn toward the nearest station, following the flow of people descending into the earth, into the veins and arteries of Tokyo's great transit system. The morning is still young, and the city is waiting. We descend into the station, following the current of bodies moving with quiet purpose downstairs that seem to go deeper than should be possible. The air changes as we go, cooler, denser, carrying the faint metallic scent of electricity and steel and thousands of passing lives. This is Tokyo's nervous system, its circulatory network, the hidden architecture that keeps 13 million people moving in synchrony. The platform opens before us, impossibly clean, lined in white tile that reflects fluorescent light until everything glows with a clinical brightness. Yellow lines mark the edge where platform becomes air, and everyone stands behind them with unconscious discipline. A train arrives, not with a screech but with a whisper, a rush of displaced air that lifts hair and flutters coat sleeves. The doors slide open in perfect alignment with markings on the platform, as though train and station were designed by watchmakers rather than engineers. We step inside. The train is full but not crowded, every passenger existing in their own envelope of personal space maintained through unspoken agreement. Some read folded newspapers. Others stare at phones, thumbs scrolling through vertical worlds of text and image. A few simply stand with eyes closed, swaying gently with the train's rhythm, practicing a kind of standing meditation we have seen nowhere else. No one speaks. The only sounds are the train's hum, the soft chime announcing each station, and the gentle recorded voice. A woman's voice, calm and precise, numbing places we cannot yet. We watch people enter and exit at each stop, a choreography so practiced it seems almost cellular, as though the train itself were breathing, inhaling passengers at one station, exhaling them at the next. Platform attendants in crisp uniforms bow as the doors close, a gesture of respect offered to people they will never know, will never see again. We feel ourselves becoming part of this living system, one cell among millions, moving through the body of Tokyo toward some greater purpose we cannot name. The train emerges from underground into daylight, and suddenly we are elevated, gliding past apartment windows and rooftop gardens and laundry hanging like prayer flags in the urban wind. Then we descend again, back into the earth, back into the tunnels that smell of rain even when there is no rain. We arrive in Shinjuku. The station here is a city within the city, corridors branching into corridors, stairwells leading to underground shopping arcades, exit signs numbered in sequences that seem to obey some arcane logic only locals understand. We follow the flow upward, and when we finally emerge at street level, we are standing in a canyon of glass and steel. Shinjuku rises around us like a vertical forest, towers climbing toward a sky we can barely see between their peaks. Digital billboards the size of buildings display faces 20 meters tall, their mouths moving in silent advertisement, their eyes tracking nothing and everything. The air vibrates with density, with energy compressed into too little space, with the accumulated ambition of a city that ran out of horizontal room and decided to grow upward instead. We walk, letting the crowds carry us, and find ourselves turning down a side street where the buildings suddenly shrink, where the neon dims, where the 21st century seems to peel away like wallpaper, revealing something older underneath. This is Ahmed Yakacho, Memory Lane. The alley is narrow enough that we could touch both walls if we stretched our arms. Red lanterns hang above doorways, their paper glowing with warm light that spills out into the gathering dusk. Steam rises from open kitchens, carrying the smell of charcoal and grilling meat and sake, and something sweet and burnt we cannot identify. Tiny restaurants line both sides, 6 seats here, 4 seats there. Counters so small that patrons sit elbow to elbow, sharing space and warmth and the proximity of strangers becoming briefly familiar. We peer into one. Through the smoke and steam, we see salarymen with loosened ties, laughing over skewers of yakitori, their faces flushed from beer and camaraderie. The chef works behind the counter, turning meat on a grill, his movements economical and certain, each skewer receiving exactly the attention it requires. Menus are hand-written, plastered to walls alongside faded photographs of dishes and prices and business cards left by customers from decades past. We do not enter, not yet. We simply observe, absorbing the textures, the sounds, the way this narrow alley seems to hold time differently than the streets surrounding it. This is Showa-era Japan still breathing, still feeding people, still glowing with the unpretentious warmth of places that have no interest in being anything other than what they are. We wander back toward the main streets, and something catches our eye. A small shop with a simple sign and windows displaying notebooks arranged like precious objects. The stationery store is quiet, nearly silent, as though we have stepped into a library devoted to paper and ink rather than books. The air smells of wood pulp and leather and something faintly sweet, perhaps the sizing in fine paper. Shelves line every wall, organized with a precision that feels almost reverent. Notebooks with cream-colored covers, their pages thick and toothy. Fountain pens displayed in velvet-lined cases, their barrels lacquered in deep colors, burgundy, forest green, midnight blue. We pick up a pen, feeling its weight, noting the perfect balance between barrel and cap. The nib gleams like a tiny sculpture. There is a testing station where customers can try pens on sample paper, and we watch a woman carefully writing characters with a concentration that suggests she is not merely testing a pen, but entering into relationship with it. This is monozukuri, the Japanese spirit of making things with dedication and utmost care, where even a simple pen becomes an object worthy of attention, of craftsmanship, of pride. We understand, standing here, that in Japan even the smallest tools are treated as though they matter, as though the quality of one's pen or notebook might influence the quality of one's thoughts. It is a philosophy that makes the ordinary sacred. We leave with nothing purchased but something gained, an appreciation for precision, for objects made well enough to last, for a culture that finds beauty in utility. Outside, our hunger returns in a smaller, sweeter form. We find a street vendor tucked against the side of a building, operating from a cart that steams and sizzles. The smell is irresistible: hot batter, sweet bean paste, something caramelizing in iron molds shaped like fish. Taiyaki. We order with gestures and a few halting words. The vendor smiles, nods, pours batter into the fish-shaped molds, adds a dollop of red bean paste, closes the iron like a book, and flips it over a small gas flame. We watch the process with the fascination of witnessing something both simple and perfected through countless repetitions. When he opens the mold, the taiyaki emerges golden and crisp, shaped like a small sea bream, its scales imprinted in delicate detail. It is handed to us wrapped in paper, almost too hot to hold. We bite into it carefully. The exterior is crisp, the interior soft and yielding, the red bean paste sweet and earthy and warm. We eat it standing on the corner, watching Shinjuku move around us, tasting something that is part snack, part comfort, part cultural artifact. The crowds thicken as we walk toward Shibuya, and we feel the city's energy rising, tightening, preparing for something. We emerge from the station into late afternoon light and find ourselves standing at the edge of Shibuya Crossing. For a moment, we simply watch. The intersection is vast, bordered on all sides by buildings wrapped in screens and signs and animated advertisements. Pedestrians gather on every corner, waiting behind white lines, accumulating like water behind a dam. The traffic lights glow red. Cars flow through the intersection in organized streams. Then the lights. Everything stops. The cars go still. For one breath, the intersection is empty, a pause, a held moment. Then the walk signals chime, and people pour into the crossing from all directions simultaneously, hundreds of bodies moving through each other in complex braids of motion. It should be chaos. It should be collision and confusion. But instead it is choreography, each person navigating through the crowd with unconscious grace, adjusting speed and angle and trajectory in micro movements too subtle to name. We step off the curb and join them. We are swept into the current, moving with the flow, surrounded on all sides by faces we will never see again. For these 30 seconds, we are part of something larger, a river of humanity crossing an urban void, a moment of collective purpose where everyone is going somewhere and no one collides. It feels like flying. It feels like breathing. We reach the other side and turn back to watch the next wave begin. The intersection empties. The lights change. The cars flow. Then it happens again, the pause, the chime, the flood of people braiding through space. Near the crossing, we find the small bronze statue of Hachiko, the loyal dog who waited for his owner at this very station every day for years after the owner's death. People gather around him, touching his nose for luck, taking photographs, offering small gestures of respect to a loyalty that transcends species. We stand quietly beside the statue, feeling the weight of devotion made permanent in metal, of a story so powerful it has become part of the city's emotional architecture. The afternoon is lengthening, shadows stretching across the pavement, and the crowd continues to pulse and flow around us. We can feel Shibuya's energy, young, restless, alive with the electricity of possibilities not yet realized. We turn toward the next district, following signs toward Harajuku, ready to see what playfulness looks like when a city allows itself to stop taking itself seriously. We walk from Shibuya as the afternoon light softens into something golden and diffuse, filtering through the urban canopy like honey poured through gauze. The streets between districts blur together, and then suddenly we turn a corner and everything changes. The energy shifts, the colors brighten, the air itself seems younger. This is Harajuku. Takeshita Street opens before us like a corridor into another dimension where adulthood has been temporarily suspended. The narrow pedestrian lane is packed shoulder to shoulder with teenagers and young people moving in slow currents, their clothing a riot of color and style: pastel hair, platform shoes, oversized hoodies printed with cartoon characters we half recognize, skirts layered over pants layered over striped socks. This is youth culture made visible, made public, made into a kind of performance where the audience is also the performer. The shops spill out onto the street, their facades covered in signs and screens and mannequins dressed in outfits that seem designed by someone who decided that more is always better, that clashing is a virtue, that normal is the only thing worth rebelling against. A store selling nothing but socks in every conceivable pattern. Another offering accessories shaped like food, phone cases that look like toast, earrings shaped like tiny sushi. A vintage clothing shop where American band t-shirts from the 1990s hang beside reconstructed kimonos, beside denim jackets covered in hand-sewn patches. We pause outside a shop devoted entirely to kawaii culture, cute taken to its logical extreme and then pushed further. The windows display stuffed animals with impossibly large eyes, stationery covered in cartoon bears and rabbits, phone charms dangling in clusters like strange fruit. Inside, everything is pink or pastel blue or mint green, and the music playing is bright and synthetic, a soundtrack to innocence commodified. We enter, moving through aisles of carefully organized whimsy, watching young shoppers select items with the seriousness of curators building collections. There is joy here, unironic and unashamed, joy in small things, in objects that serve no purpose except to delight, in a kind of playfulness that refuses to apologize for itself. Back on the street, we are drawn to a crepe stand where a line has formed. The menu is overwhelming, dozens of combinations involving chocolate, whipped cream, strawberries, bananas, ice cream, cookies, candies, all folded into thin pancakes and wrapped in paper cones. We order something that sounds impossible: banana, chocolate sauce, whipped cream, custard, and watch the vendor work with practiced speed, spreading batter on a circular griddle, adding toppings with assembly line precision, folding the crepe into a perfect cone, wrapping it so it can be eaten while walking. The first bite is absurdly sweet, a sugar rush delivered in portable form, the kind of food that exists purely for pleasure rather than sustenance. We eat it slowly, savoring the ridiculousness, the excess, the sheer commitment to indulgence that this street represents. Around us, others do the same, walking with crepes or cotton candy or oversized bags of candy, turning food into accessory, into part of the street's visual language. But even as we move through this candy-colored world, we can feel something else nearby, a different kind of energy, quieter and older, waiting just beyond the neon and noise. We follow the flow of people away from Takeshita Street, and the buildings begin to thin. The pavement gives way to gravel, and suddenly we are standing at the entrance to a forest that shouldn't exist in the middle of one of the world's largest cities. The Torii Gate rises before us, massive and simple, made of wood so dark it seems to absorb light rather than reflect it. It marks a threshold. On one side, the modern world with its screens and sounds and ceaseless motion. On the other, something ancient, something that exists according to different rules. We bow slightly as we pass beneath it, following the custom we've observed in others, feeling the gesture's weight even if we don't fully understand its meaning. The path beyond is wide and covered in fine gravel that crunches softly beneath our feet, a sound that somehow creates silence rather than breaking it. Trees rise on both sides, massive camphor and cypress and oak, their canopies meeting overhead to form a living ceiling that filters the sunlight into green-gold fragments. The air is different here, cooler and cleaner, carrying the scent of earth and leaves and something else we cannot name, something that might be time itself. We walk slowly, feeling no need to hurry. Other visitors move along the path with us, but everyone seems to have adopted the same measured pace, the same quiet demeanor, as though the forest has cast a spell of stillness over all who enter. The sounds of the city fade behind us until they are less than memory, and in their place we hear birdsong, wind in leaves, our own breathing. We pass beneath a second torii, then a third, each one marking a deeper entry into sacred space. And then the path opens into a courtyard, and we are standing before Meiji Shrine itself. The main hall is built in the style of ancient Japan, all dark wood and gracefully sloping roofs, simple in design yet somehow monumental in presence. Camphor trees flank the entrance, their trunks massive and gnarled, connected by a thick rope hung with white paper zigzags, shimnawa, marking them as sacred, as vessels of spiritual power. The rope seems less like decoration and more like recognition of something we cannot see but can perhaps feel. We approach the offering box and watch others perform their prayers. They bow twice, clap twice, bow once more, a rhythm that has been repeated millions of times in this exact spot, a gesture that connects this moment to countless others. Some close their eyes for long moments, lips moving silently. Some simply stand in stillness, their prayers existing beyond words. To the side, wooden boards hang in rows, prayer tablets where visitors write wishes or gratitude or hopes. We move closer, reading the ones written in English or languages we can puzzle out. Someone hopes to pass an exam. Someone else prays for their mother's health. Another thanks the shrine for blessings received. The boards are small windows into private longings made public, into the universal human practice of speaking to forces larger than ourselves, whether we call them gods or fate or simply the listening universe. We find a blank tablet and write our own wish, something simple and true, and hang it among the others. It feels significant, this small act, not because we expect divine intervention, but because we have participated in a ritual that connects us to this place, to this moment, to the countless others who have stood where we stand and hoped for something better. Incense smoke rises from a large bronze vessel, thin ribbons climbing into still air, carrying prayers upward or perhaps simply marking their release into the world. We wave the smoke toward ourselves, as we've seen others do, and breathe in its sandalwood scent, feeling it settle into our lungs like a benediction. When we finally leave the shrine, walking back through the forest toward the city, we feel changed in small ways we cannot articulate. The trees seem to hold us a moment longer before releasing us back into the noise and motion of Tokyo. Hunger brings us back to ourselves, and we realize it is past noon, that we have spent the morning and early afternoon moving through the city without pause. We need to eat, properly this time, and we follow instinct and the smell of simmering broth until we find a small ramen shop tucked into a narrow building. The entrance is marked by a vending machine where we purchase our meal ticket, pressing buttons that correspond to images of bowls we can only guess at. Inside, the shop is tiny, a counter with 8 stools, a narrow space behind it where a single chef works with intense concentration, steam rising around him like a personal weather system. We take our seats and hand over our tickets without speaking. This is the ritual, the protocol observed in thousands of ramen shops across Japan. Minimal interaction, maximum focus on the food. The chef nods, turns to his station, and begins the choreography we have come to recognize. Noodles dropped into boiling water, tear sauce ladled into a bowl, broth poured from a pot that has been simmering for hours, perhaps days, building depth through patient reduction. When the bowl arrives before us, it is a universe unto itself. The broth is cloudy and rich, its surface glistening with fat that swirls in rainbow patterns. Noodles coil beneath like sleeping dragons. Slices of pork are arranged with careful geometry, their edges charred and caramelized. A soft-boiled egg, split to reveal a yolk that is neither liquid nor solid but something between, the color of sunset. Green onions and bamboo shoots provide punctuation, small notes of texture and brightness. We lift the noodles with chopsticks and slurp, producing the sound that in any other context would be rude but here is expected, even encouraged, the sound of appreciation, of proper noodle consumption, of air mixed with broth to fully release the flavors. The noodles are perfectly al dente, with a springy texture that resists the teeth before yielding. The broth is complex beyond description, salty and savory and rich, with layers of flavor that reveal themselves slowly. Pork bone and chicken and dried fish, soy sauce and garlic and ginger, all simmered into something that tastes less like food and more like essence, like everything delicious distilled into liquid form. We eat in silence, as does everyone else in the shop. This is meditation disguised as lunch, a practice of presence where the only thing that matters is the bowl before us and the next perfect bite. When we finish, we drink the remaining broth directly from the bowl, tipping it back to capture every last drop. We leave money on the counter, bow slightly to the chef who bows in return, and step back outside, feeling satisfied in body and somehow also in spirit. The afternoon stretches before us, warm and unhurried. We wander away from the main streets, following smaller lanes that curve between buildings, discovering the Tokyo that exists between destinations. These backstreets are quieter, residential, lined with small houses and apartment buildings where laundry hangs on balconies and potted plants crowd doorways. An elderly woman tends a tiny garden, barely larger than a tablecloth, coaxing flowers from a few square meters of earth. A cat watches us from atop a wall, its eyes half closed in that expression of feline contentment that suggests it has achieved enlightenment through strategic napping. We pass a small playground where children's voices rise in a language we don't speak, but somehow understand. The universal dialect of play, of joy expressed through motion and laughter. A convenience store hums quietly on a corner, its automatic doors opening and closing as customers enter and exit, everyone bowing slightly to the clerk who bows in return. This endless exchange of small courtesies that makes daily life feel ceremonial. The city is showing us its softer side now, the spaces between the spectacle, the ordinary moments that constitute the actual texture of living here rather than merely visiting. We realize that Tokyo is not one city but thousands, overlapping and interpenetrating. The neon city, the ancient city, the quiet city of backstreets and gardens and cats sleeping in afternoon sun. The light is changing again, beginning its slow descent toward evening, and we feel the pull of another district, another kind of energy. Somewhere to the east, Akihabara waits with its arcades and electronics and technicolor fantasies, and we decide to let curiosity guide us there, to see what happens when a city allows its obsessions to build entire neighborhoods. The train delivers us to Akihabara, and when we emerge from underground, we step into a district that seems to operate according to different physical laws, where light behaves strangely and time moves at multiple speeds simultaneously. Electric Town sprawls before us in layers of neon and noise. Buildings rise 6, 7, 8 stories, their facades completely covered in screens and signs, and illuminated advertisements that flicker and pulse and scroll with hypnotic insistence. Anime characters 3 stories tall stare down from billboards, their eyes impossibly large, their hair defying gravity in shades that don't exist in nature. Speakers mounted to every surface broadcast J-pop and game soundtracks and voices calling out in Japanese, creating an audio landscape so dense it becomes almost physical, something you move through rather than simply hear. We walk into this sensory flood, letting it wash over us. The streets are crowded with people moving between shops, teenagers in cosplay, middle-aged men in business suits clutching plastic bags filled with figurines, tourists photographing everything, locals navigating with practiced efficiency. Every storefront is a universe. Electronic stores displaying camera lenses and computer components like jewels in glass cases. Anime shops where walls are papered floor to ceiling with manga and DVDs, and merchandise featuring characters we half recognize. Maid cafes where young women in frilled costumes stand outside, calling to passers-by with rehearsed enthusiasm. We are drawn to an arcade, its entrance a portal of flashing lights and electronic chimes. Inside, the noise intensifies into something almost overwhelming. The digital explosions of fighting games, the mechanical clatter of pachinko, the music from a dozen rhythm games overlapping into glorious chaos. Players stand at machines with expressions of intense concentration, their hands moving across buttons and joysticks with the precision of musicians. Some have drawn small crowds of spectators watching their mastery, their ability to keep impossibly complex combos flowing without error. On one floor, we find rows of crane machines, their glass cases filled with plush toys and figurines and prizes wrapped in plastic. We watch someone attempt to win a stuffed cat, maneuvering the mechanical claw with small adjustments of the joystick, each movement calculated and deliberate. The claw descends, grabs, lifts, and the prize tumbles back down. They feed in another coin and try again. There is something meditative about their persistence, their willingness to engage in this small contest of skill and chance and gravity. We try it ourselves, selecting a machine at random, inserting coins that clink into the slot with satisfying weight. The controls are surprisingly responsive, the claw descending exactly where we aim it, but grabbing anything securely feels impossible. The toys seem designed to slip free at the last moment, to taunt with near success. We fail 3 times before walking away, smiling at our defeat, understanding that the game itself is the point, not the prize. On another floor, we discover a retro gaming store, its shelves lined with cartridges and consoles from decades past. Famicom and Super Famicom games in their original boxes, their cover art faded but still vibrant with the aesthetic of a different era, pixelated heroes, dragons rendered in 8 colors, text in fonts that scream 1980s. There are Game Boy cartridges in plastic bins, PlayStation discs in jewel cases, instruction manuals in Japanese that we cannot read but flip through anyway, admiring their hand-drawn maps and character illustrations. Time moves strangely here in Akihabara. Hours can pass in what feels like minutes, or minutes can stretch into small eternities as you browse shelf after shelf of obsessive subcategories. Model kits organized by scale, trading cards sorted by series and rarity, figurines arranged by character and manufacturer. This is a neighborhood built by and for people who love things deeply, specifically, with a devotion that borders on religious. But eventually, the sensory intensity becomes too much, and we feel the need for quiet, for stillness, for spaces designed for contemplation rather than stimulation. We find it in a bookstore several blocks away, a massive multi-story building whose entrance is marked with simple elegance rather than neon assault. Tsujiya, or perhaps Kinokuniya. The name matters less than the atmosphere that greets us as we enter. The lighting here is soft and warm, carefully calibrated to make reading comfortable, to make books look inviting rather than clinical. The space is vast but somehow intimate, divided into sections and alcoves that create pockets of privacy within the larger whole. Shelves stretch toward high ceilings, filled with books arranged by genre and language, Japanese novels and manga and photography collections, imported English titles, art books too beautiful to be opened casually. People browse in near silence, their movements slow and deliberate. Some stand reading entire chapters without purchasing, and no one seems to mind. This is a space that encourages lingering, that treats reading as a legitimate activity in itself rather than merely preparation for buying. We see reading nooks tucked into corners, chairs positioned near windows, small tables where people sit with open books and cups of coffee from the attached cafe. We wander through aisles of manga, marveling at the sheer volume and variety, entire shelves devoted to single series that have been running for decades, their spines numbered into the hundreds. We find the art section and lose ourselves in books about Japanese design, about calligraphy, about the philosophy of simplicity and the aesthetics of imperfection. The paper quality is exceptional, the images printed with a clarity and richness that makes each page a small treasure. There is something profoundly calming about being surrounded by this many stories, this much accumulated knowledge and imagination and human effort organized into physical form. We could stay for hours, and some people clearly do, treating the bookstore as a kind of secular temple, a place to come and be quiet and let the mind wander through other worlds. But we have wandered enough, and now we need to sit to rest, to let the city's accumulated impressions settle into something. The Matcha Cafe is small and minimalist, all clean lines and natural wood and light filtering through rice paper screens. We order at a counter and receive a bowl of matcha whisked to frothy perfection, its surface a vibrant green that seems almost luminous. The tea is bitter and earthy and complex, the kind of flavor that demands attention, that cannot be consumed mindlessly. We sit by a window overlooking a side street where afternoon light slants between buildings, gilding everything it touches. For these few minutes, we simply exist without agenda, watching the city move past, feeling the tea's warmth spread through our chest, allowing ourselves the luxury of doing nothing. When we finally stand and return to the streets, the light has changed again, deepening toward evening, and we feel ourselves drawn toward a different kind of beauty. Not the exuberant chaos of Akihabara or the youthful energy of Harajuku, but something more refined, more restrained. Ginza receives us with quiet confidence. The boulevards here are wide and clean, lined with trees that provide shade and softness against the marble and glass. The buildings are elegant without being ostentatious, their facades displaying designer logos and boutique names in tasteful lettering rather than screaming advertisements. This is wealth expressed through understatement, luxury that doesn't need to announce itself because it knows you already know. We walk slowly, observing the window displays that are curated like museum exhibitions. A single handbag displayed on white pedestal, lit from above like sculpture. A mannequin wearing a dress that costs more than most people earn in a month, positioned as though mid-step in some eternal, elegant stride. We pass department stores that occupy entire blocks, their entrances flanked by doormen in white gloves who bow to every customer. Through revolving doors, we glimpse interiors of polished marble and crystal chandeliers, cosmetics counters where staff in crisp uniforms demonstrate products with the precision of scientists, food halls in basement levels where perfect fruit is sold at extraordinary prices, each melon and strawberry selected for aesthetic perfection as much as taste. But we are drawn not to the luxury brands, but to something smaller. More specific, a boutique specializing in traditional crafts. The shop is narrow and deep, its interior arranged with museum-like care. Cases display ceramics, tea bowls, and sake cups and small plates, each one unique, their glazes producing subtle variations of color that shift as we move around them. There are textiles folded into perfect rectangles, their patterns revealed only partially, inviting touch. A watch boutique next door draws our attention with a single timepiece displayed in the window, spotlit against darkness. We enter, and a staff member greets us with a bow and surprising warmth given the obvious expense of everything around us. The watches here are mechanical masterpieces, their movements visible through transparent case backs, tiny gears and springs and jewels working in orchestrated harmony to measure time's passage. The salesperson, sensing our curiosity rather than our purchasing power, still treats us with respect, explaining the craftsmanship involved, the hours of hand finishing, the tradition of Japanese watchmaking that emphasizes precision and longevity over fashion. We listen, understanding that we are being taught about values, about making things to last, about the quiet pride in work done excellently, about beauty that reveals itself slowly to those willing to pay attention. We leave without buying anything but enriched by the encounter, by this window into a way of thinking about objects and time and value that feels increasingly rare. The evening pulls us toward water. We walk until we find a river, perhaps the Sumida, perhaps the Meguro. It matters less than the change in atmosphere that water always brings. The riverside path is tree-lined and peaceful, populated by joggers and couples and people walking dogs, all moving with the relaxed pace of those no longer rushing towards something. The water moves slowly, its surface catching reflections of bridges and buildings and sky, doubling the world and making it shimmer. A boat passes underneath us, its wake spreading in geometric patterns that reach the banks and disappear. Birds we cannot name wade in the shallows, searching for things we cannot see. We lean against a railing and watch the city across the water, seeing it from this slight distance, this perspective of removal. Tokyo has taken us through so many versions of itself today. The quiet morning, the busy transit, the vertical intensity of Shinjuku, the youthful play of Harajuku, the sacred calm of Meiji, the digital fever dream of Akihabara, the elegant restraint of Ginza. Each district a different face, a different mood, yet all somehow coherent, all recognizably part of the same organism. The light is fading properly now, the sky turning colors that painters spend careers trying to capture, amber and rose and violet, all bleeding into each other above the city's silhouette. The day is not finished, but it is transforming, moving from exploration toward something else, something softer and more reflective. We think of the old Tokyo waiting in Asakusa, and we feel ourselves drawn there, wanting to see how the past survives in this relentlessly modern city, wanting to walk streets where centuries layer over each other like sediment, where history is not preserved but lived. We follow the river until it leads us toward Asakusa, where the air feels different, thicker with history, layered with centuries of prayers and commerce and lives lived in the same streets we now walk. The modern city hasn't disappeared here, but it has learned to coexist with something older, something that refuses to be entirely replaced. Nakamai Street opens before us, a covered shopping arcade leading toward the temple, lined on both sides with small shops selling souvenirs and sweets and traditional goods. Paper fans and wooden combs and small figurines of lucky cats with raised paws. The crowds move slowly here, browsing and photographing, but there is a purposefulness beneath the tourism. People are walking towards something, not just wandering through. We pass a vendor selling ningyo-yaki, small cakes baked in molds shaped like dolls and temples and flowers. The smell is irresistible, sweet batter and red bean paste, something warm and comforting that speaks to childhood even if we never had childhoods that included these particular sweets. We buy one, still warm from the griddle, and bite into it as we walk. The exterior is slightly crisp, the interior soft and filled with sweet bean paste that is earthy and not too sweet, complex in a way that American desserts rarely are. We eat it slowly, savoring both the taste and the act of eating while walking through this particular street at this particular hour. At the end of Nakamai's, the gate rises, Hazaman, massive and red, flanked by guardian statues whose expressions hover between fierce and protective. We pass beneath it and enter the temple courtyard, and something shifts in the atmosphere, becomes quieter even though the space is still populated with visitors. Sensojai Temple stands before us, Tokyo's oldest Buddhist temple, its architecture speaking a language of curved roof lines and dark wood and patient endurance. The main hall is illuminated now as evening deepens, soft lights emphasizing the building's elegant proportions, making it glow against the darkening sky. The 5-story pagoda rises to our left, each tier lit from below, creating layers of light and shadow that make the structure seem to float. Smoke rises from the large incense burner in the courtyard, thick ribbons of sandalwood carrying prayers upward into the evening air. People gather around it, wafting smoke toward themselves over their heads, toward their shoulders, wherever they carry pain or worry or hope for blessing. We do the same, feeling the smoke settle on our skin and clothes, breathing in its ancient scent, participating in a ritual that connects this moment to millions of other moments stretching back across centuries. The temple is open and we enter, removing our shoes, feeling the cool wood beneath our feet. Inside, the space is dim and golden, lit by candles and electric lights designed to mimic candlelight. People pray in silence, bowing, pressing hands together, their lips moving with words meant only for themselves, and whatever they believe is listening. We stand at the back, simply observing, feeling the accumulated weight of faith and hope and human longing that has soaked into these walls over 400 years. When we emerge, the courtyard has taken on the quality of a dream. The pagoda glowing, the lanterns lit, the last daylight draining from the sky, leaving everything suspended in that blue hour when the world is neither day nor night, but some third state that exists only in transition. We leave the temple grounds as the golden hour deepens into evening proper, the city's lights beginning to assert themselves, neon warming up, windows glowing in apartment buildings, street lamps flickering on in sequence. Our hunger returns, sharper now, and we begin searching for dinner, not at a tourist restaurant but somewhere small, somewhere locals go, somewhere that feels like warmth made architectural. We find it down a side street, marked only by a small wooden sign and a curtain hanging in the doorway, split down the middle, printed with characters we cannot read but understand mean welcome, mean enter, mean you belong here for as long as you stay. The izakaya is tiny, 8 seats at a counter, a narrow kitchen behind it where 2 people work and practice coordination, every movement economical and certain. We slide the door open and are greeted with irashimasu called out in chorus by staff and a few regulars, a welcome that feels genuinely warm rather than performative. We take seats at the counter, the wood worn smooth by decades of elbows and plates and hands. There is no English menu, but we point and nod and trust, and within minutes, small plates begin arriving. Edamame first, the pods dusted with coarse salt, still warm, requiring us to use our teeth to pull the beans free. Then skewers of yakitori, chicken grilled over charcoal until the skin is crisp and slightly charred, the meat tender and smoky, each bite releasing juice and salt, and the primitive satisfaction of well-cooked protein. Gyoza arrive next, their bottoms crisp and golden, their tops soft and yielding, filled with pork and cabbage and garlic, served with a sauce we dip them in before eating in single bites. The chef works behind the counter with complete focus, tending his grill, turning skewers with precise timing, plating each dish with care that suggests he takes personal pride in every element. His partner moves between kitchen and front, pouring beer and sake, wiping down the counter, exchanging quiet words with regulars who seem to know them by name. We order sake and it arrives in a small ceramic carafe with matching cups, the liquid clear and slightly warm. It tastes clean and dry with subtle fruit notes, and it goes down easily, warming our chest, softening the edges of the day's accumulated tiredness. We eat slowly, ordering more as we go, grilled fish that flakes apart at the touch of chopsticks, revealing flesh that is sweet and delicate, cold tofu topped with grated ginger and green onion, pickled vegetables that provide bright, sharp contrast to the richer dishes. This is what we came for. We realize not monuments or famous sites, but this, sitting shoulder to shoulder with strangers in a room barely large enough to contain everyone, eating food prepared with care by someone who has made the same dishes thousands of times and still treats each one as though it matters, feeling the warmth of human proximity and shared purpose. The izakaya is not just a restaurant. It is a space designed for connection, for the temporary intimacy that emerges when people eat and drink together in close quarters. When we finally leave, bowing in thanks, stepping back into the night air, we feel both satisfied and slightly adrift in the way one does after good food and drink. The streets around us are unfamiliar, and we realize we're not entirely sure which direction leads back to familiar territory. So we wander, accepting the lostness, letting the backstreets guide us. The neighborhoods here are residential, quiet, lit by vending machines and the occasional street lamp. We pass small houses with potted plants by their doors, apartment buildings where windows glow with domestic light, someone cooking dinner, someone watching television, lives unfolding in parallel, each one complete in. We turn down an alley and discover a small shrine we never would have found intentionally, just a few stone steps, a small torii gate, a space barely larger than a closet devoted to something sacred. It is unlit except by a single bulb, and empty except for us. We bow, feeling foolish and sincere simultaneously, honoring whatever spirits or history or human hope this tiny shrine represents. The alley opens onto a wider street, and suddenly we can see it in the distance, Tokyo Skytree, rising impossibly tall against the night sky. Its upper reaches illuminated in colors that shift slowly through blue and purple and soft white. It is kilometers away but dominates the skyline, a needle of light and steel and human ambition punching through the urban sprawl toward stars we cannot see through the city's glow. We stand watching it for a long moment, feeling small and somehow peaceful in our smallness. Tokyo has shown us so much today, its intensity and its calm, its ancient practices and its embrace of the new, its crowds and its hidden spaces. The Skytree represents something about the city's character, this willingness to reach upward, to build something that serves no purpose except to exist beautifully, to mark the sky with human presence. But we don't want to go there. Don't want to climb it or photograph it or experience it as tourists do. We are content to see it from this distance, to let it be a marker in the night, something to orient ourselves by as we continue wandering. We find ourselves drawn toward music, faint notes of jazz drifting from somewhere nearby. We follow the sound down a narrow stairwell into a basement where a small sign glows. A saxophone logo, a name in English and Japanese. The jazz bar is intimate to the point of being small, maybe 20 seats total. A tiny stage in the corner where a trio plays piano, bass, and drums, their instruments crowded close together. The lighting is low and warm, creating pools of amber that make every face look softer, more contemplative. People sit at small tables or at the bar, drinks in hand, attention focused on the music. We find seats near the back and order whiskey, which arrives in heavy glasses with a single large ice cube that clinks gently as we lift the glass. The music washes over us, a standard we half recognize, played with the kind of casual virtuosity that comes from years of practice, from musicians who know each other well enough to anticipate changes, to leave space for each other, to create conversation through their instruments. No one talks during the songs. Between numbers, quiet conversation resumes, but when the music starts, everyone listens. It feels sacred in a different way than the temples. This attention, this shared focus, this willingness to sit in a basement and let sound fill the spaces between people. The pianist's fingers move across keys with gentle precision, pulling melody from the instrument with touches that seem barely there. The bassist stands in shadow, his instrument resonating with notes so low we feel them in our chest as much as hear them. The drummer works with brushes rather than sticks, creating texture rather than rhythm, suggesting time rather than marking it. We sit for 3 songs, maybe 4, sipping whiskey that burns pleasantly, feeling the music settle into our bones, watching other patrons lose themselves in the sound. This is Tokyo's night self, not the neon and crowds of Shibuya or Shinjuku, but this quieter version, these basement sanctuaries where people gather to listen rather than be heard, to sit in proximity without requiring interaction, to find community in shared attention. When we finally stand to leave, dropping yen on the table, We feel reluctant to break the spell. But the night is waiting, and there is something compelling about the idea of walking through the sleeping city one last time, seeing how Tokyo transforms when most of its millions have gone to rest. We climb the stairs back to street level and step out into air that has cooled, that carries the faint smell of rain though the sky is clear. The city stretches around us in all directions, its lights spreading toward every horizon, and we begin walking with no destination except movement itself, ready to see what Tokyo looks like when the day finally lets go. The night air touches our skin with unexpected gentleness, carrying the faint promise of rain though none has yet fallen. We stand for a moment outside the jazz bar, letting our eyes adjust to the darkness, to the scattered pools of streetlight, to the way Tokyo looks when the day's momentum finally begins to slow. The streets are quieter now, the crowds thin to scattered individuals making their way home or toward last trains. A salaryman walks past with loosened tie and tired eyes, his day finally ending hours after it should have. Two young women in heels navigate the sidewalk with practiced balance, laughing about something we cannot hear. An elderly man walks a small dog, both moving with the careful deliberation of those who have learned not to rush. We begin walking with no particular direction, simply following streets that curve and intersect according to a logic that predates city planning, that follows the contours of old farmland and feudal boundaries invisible to modern eyes. The buildings around us glow with soft light, apartment windows where people are settling into evening routines, convenience stores casting their eternal fluorescent glow onto empty sidewalks, vending machines standing sentinel on corners like small shrines to the possibility of refreshment at any hour. Then we feel it, the first drop of rain, so light we think we might have imagined it. Then another, then several more, and suddenly the air is alive with moisture, the pavement darkening in irregular patterns as drops find their way down through the urban canopy. People around us react with practiced efficiency, pulling umbrellas from bags and briefcases, opening them with quick flicks of the wrist until the street blooms with transparent domes and dark canopies. We have no umbrella, but the rain is gentle, warm even, and we welcome it on our skin, on our hair, soaking slowly into our clothes. The city transforms under rain. The lights multiply, reflected in wet pavement until every surface becomes luminous, until we walk through doubled worlds, the real city above, its mirror image below, both equally beautiful, both equally temporary. The neon signs blur and streak, their colors bleeding into each other like watercolors left in the rain. Car headlights create long smears of white and amber as they pass, their tires singing soft songs on wet asphalt. We walk through Shibuya again, but it is different now. The crossing still flows with people, but fewer of them, their umbrellas creating a canopy of black and clear plastic that rises and falls with the rhythm of the traffic lights. The digital screens still glow, still display their endless advertisements, but the rain softens their intensity, makes them less demanding, more like companions than commands. The sound of rain on umbrellas, on pavement, on the metal awnings of closed shops creates a rhythm that underlies everything, a percussion that turns the city into something musical. We hear it mixing with footsteps, with distant traffic, with the chime of a crosswalk signal, all of it blending into Tokyo's night song. We think about the day we have lived, the distance we have traveled not in kilometers but in atmospheres, in textures, in the emotional geography of a city that contains multitudes. We arrived this morning, was it only this morning? Stepping into streets where dawn was just breaking, where the city was stretching and yawning and preparing for the day's work. We watched it wake, watched it fill with people and energy and purpose. We moved through its districts like moving through the rooms of an enormous house, each one decorated differently, each one hosting different moods and possibilities. The vertical intensity of Shinjuku with its towers and screens, and the memory lane where time pools in lantern-lit alleys. Shibuya's crossing where hundreds become one organism flowing through space. Harajuku's playful rebellion against the tyranny of matching, of fitting in, of being what you're supposed to be. We felt the city's ancient heart beating in Meiji Shrine, in that forest that shouldn't exist but does, in the torii gates that mark transitions between worlds. We tasted its obsessions in Akihabara's neon temples to fantasy and technology, and the beautiful specificity of loving things deeply. We saw its elegant restraint in Ginza, where wealth whispers rather than shouts, where craftsmanship is treated as philosophy. We discovered its layered past in Asakusa, where Sensojai has watched centuries pass, where incense still rises carrying the same prayers people have been offering for 400 years. We found its intimate warmth in the izakaya, sitting elbow to elbow with strangers who became briefly familiar over grilled meat and sake. And we heard its soulful voice in that basement jazz club, where musicians and listeners together created silence more profound than absence of sound. Silence that was fullness, attention, shared presence in the face of beauty. Tokyo is not one city but thousands layered over each other, occupying the same physical space but existing in different dimensions of time and purpose and meaning. It is the city that wakes at dawn and the city that never sleeps. It is ancient temples and digital screens. It is precision and chaos, formality and playfulness, restraint and excess. The rain continues, gentle and persistent, and we continue walking through it, no longer trying to avoid getting wet but accepting it as part of this night, part of this city's gift to us. Our clothes cling to our skin. Our hair drips water down our necks. We have never felt more present, more alive to the moment unfolding around us. The streets grow quieter still as we walk. Many shops have closed, their shutters pulled down, their lights extinguished. The last trains have departed, carrying people to suburbs and neighborhoods where they will shed their public selves and become private again, will trade suits for comfortable clothes, will stop being workers and become parents and partners and simply themselves. But the city doesn't stop. Even now, even at this hour, it breathes and hums with residual energy. Convenience stores stay lit. Vending machines glow on corners. Taxi drivers cruise empty streets hopping for late fares. Somewhere, someone is still working, still creating, still dreaming. We realize that Tokyo has become more than a place we visited. It has become a feeling we carry, a collection of moments and sensations that will stay with us long after we leave. The smell of incense at the shrine, the taste of ramen broth, the sound of train doors closing, The sight of umbrellas blooming in sudden rain, the feeling of being lost and finding something you didn't know you were looking for. This city has taught us something about how to be in the world, with attention, with courtesy, with respect for both tradition and possibility, with room for both the sacred and the silly. It has shown us that millions of people can live in proximity without collision, that crowds can flow like water, that efficiency doesn't require coldness, that formality can coexist with warmth. The rain begins to soften, becoming mist, becoming the suggestion of moisture rather than actual drops. The clouds part slightly, and we catch glimpses of sky between buildings, dark and infinite above the city's glow. We think about leaving, about the eventual departure that waits, the taxi to the airport, the flight that will lift us away from this island, this city, these streets we have walked until they feel like home. But even as we imagine leaving, we know that we will carry Tokyo with us, that it has marked us in ways we are only beginning to understand. The city will continue without us, of course. Tomorrow morning, it will wake again, its trains will fill with commuters, its shrines will receive new prayers, its streets will flow with people moving toward purposes we will never know. The chef in the ramen shop will make his broth. The woman will sweep her sidewalk. The jazz musicians will gather in their basement and fill it with sound. Tokyo doesn't need us to exist. But for these hours, these fleeting moments, we have been part of its breathing, part of its rhythm, part of the countless individual lives that together create the organism we call the city. We find ourselves back near our hotel without quite remembering the route we took to get here. The rain has stopped completely now, leaving the streets gleaming and clean, washed of the day's accumulation. The air smells of wet concrete and possibilities. We look up one last time at the buildings rising around us, at the lights still glowing in windows where people sleep or read or lie awake thinking about tomorrow. We listen to the city's quiet night sound, the distant hum of traffic, the occasional footstep, the wind moving between structures, the soft ongoing whisper of a place that never truly silences. This is how Tokyo says goodbye. Not with drama or fanfare, but with this gentle persistence, this continuing breath. This reminder that the city's life extends far beyond our brief intersection with it. We turn toward rest, toward sleep, knowing that when we wake, the city will have already begun its next day, its next cycle, its eternal return to movement and purpose. Tonight, Tokyo walked through you as much as you walked through Tokyo. Rest well.